Welcome back to Crimax. This week's episode will be covering a weird one. I'm going to turn it over to my beautiful queen for a little bit more detail because this one is a little bit kind of weird. So I'm going to let her have the honor of explaining it.
All right, thank you. So today is a weird one, which usually do like missing persons or murders or serial killers and stuff. And today we're doing none of those things. We're doing kind of a bizarro, grave robbing, weirdo, creepo case from Russia. So yeah, I don't want to give any details. I kind of want to tell the story and let it play out. So what's our fun fact when we get started?
So this one goes, it actually does go along with our story. It does involve the grave, and one place on Earth that it is actually illegal to die in, believe it or not.
You can't stop me.
Oh, exactly. Well, it's not so much that it's illegal, it's that what it is there's a place in Norway. It's located on the Norwegian archipelago and I'm gonna try and pronounce this the best I can. It's Svalbard. It's about halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole. But there's a little town of about 2,000 people called Longyearbyen, right? And it gets so cold that bodies don't decompose. So normally what they do is they prefer it that if you're close to death, that you take a plane back to the mainland to finish out your days. Because they found that, and this has been in an act since 1950.
That's not that long ago.
No, I know. But
it seems like such a weird ancient thing to have a rule against.
Yeah.
It's so modern.
Well, what happened was they realized that it gets, because it is in the Arctic, the place just stays cold all year round. I mean, sun is only out for about 4 months, and that's in the winter. Other than that, it's pitch black for the most part.
Then why do people live there?
It gets so cold that the bodies don't decompose, and it became more of a safety and health concern because at one point in time the CDC did go in and actually or it might not have been the CDC, but when they decided to finally move the bodies and they started to exhume the bodies, they actually found one body that still had intact the influenza virus, which back in its day wiped out 5% of the world. So that's where the health hazard comes in, is that the bodies just don't freeze and that anything that they might have been carrying in life would be perfectly preserved.
So what you're telling me is if you start grave robbing in Norway, you could get the fucking plague?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
oh, no.
could.
Do you think we could cure the plague if it happened now? Because I doubt it. Like, that thing seemed invincible.
Corona.
Not the same.
No.
Everyone died from the plague.
See, and that's the biggest thing, because back then, influenza, back in the 1912s, I mean, it took out 5% of the human population.
Tuberculosis also is pretty modern, killed people.
Yes, but with how densely populated the Earth has become since then, it would be a lot more devastating. Like, I still believe that, we could fight it off and not lose everybody, but it would do a lot more damage than just 5% nowadays.
Yeah, probably, especially because people don't do what they're told anyways,
Yeah.
People still wanted to go to the Super Bowl the other day.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'm not gonna lie, I would have.
What? You can't? Why? Yeah. What do you know about sports? I can tell you.
I just
color.
don't actively watch them or keep up with them, but I know enough that I can, if it's on, I'll watch it, and I know enough of the rules that I can keep up with most sports. It's just I don't actively seek out, hey, it's a sports weekend, we're gonna watch this and whatever. But if it's on, yeah, sure, I got no problem.
Okay, so do you like to go to sporting events? Because I love baseball games.
See, that's fine, and my dad loves them too.
There's just a great atmosphere. Everybody's really nice. There's tons of cool snacks. They have a rock bar.
Yeah, my dad loves baseball. He's a huge Braves fan. My Mimi, she's a huge sports fan. When it comes to baseball and football, though, she's got to go more of the Georgia. Like she's been Florida. She's been raised in Florida her entire life, but she's a Georgia fan.
Oh no, you're talking way too straight man for me right now. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I just like snacks and baseball. I can actually follow that. I don't know how to follow football. Oh, we hit a certain line. Woo! What the fuck? I don't know.
Oh yeah. But No, so back to our actual main plot. There are a lot of places in the world, such as like there's a lot of places in Japan to where it's not quite illegal, I would say, but you're not allowed to expire there. But mostly that's because of spiritual reasons. Here it's because of more of a safety reason rather than a spiritual reason.
Yeah.
So let's get into our story.
All right, so today we're talking about the case of Anatoly Moskvin. I don't really know how to call it a case. It's just like the story around this dude and his weird stuff. He's also been named the Russian Doll Man, as well as the Lord of the Mummies and the Puppeteer. I think the Lord of the Mummies is the coolest title. Also, the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. Oh, it's such a classic. And everyone in that movie is hot. Except the brother. He's not hot.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Sure.
But anyway, Anatoly Moskvin was born on September 1st, 1966, which makes him 54 years old today, in Russia, to his parents Elvira, which, awesome name, and Yuri, which is just a basic name. But Elvira, that's an amazing name. Like, there should be, like, Americans and people walking around just named Elvira all the time, right?
Elvira. Yeah, it's a good name. Rolls off the tongue.
Mistress of the Dark.
Yeah.
Great tits.
You really paint the picture there, babe.
She is an icon. So when Anatoly was growing up, people knew he was smart, but really socially awkward, which I feel like goes hand in hand. There's a lot of really smart people who don't really connect well with society, and they're really awkward and stuff.
Yo.
Yeah, you? You are awkward, but you're so cute. And he ended up attending Moscow State University, and then he became a historian and linguist. He learned to speak 13 different languages.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
13. First of all, I was like the president of Spanish Honor Society, like took Spanish 1 through 5 in high school and stuff. You don't use it, you learn it, you lose it. I can't tell you anything nowadays. So does he really know 13 languages, or does he just like know 13 languages? You know? Who's gonna prove it? The degree he got at the Moscow State University was in Celtic studies, which it's a religionist kind of based study. And in that religion, it believes in the afterlife. Like the Egyptians, they would like take stuff with them they would need for the next life. So they believed in like coming back to life. They also believed that sex was a form of magic. So he refrained from that, as well as avoided alcohol and smoking. He never dated or married, but he did try to adopt a young girl at one point against his parents' wishes, but he couldn't because he had low income. So he's a virgin. For all intents and purposes, to this day, he's a virgin. You know, people make choices all they want to, but that sounds so boring.
That's where it all starts.
What?
Being a virgin.
That's what all starts.
I don't know.
Now, he said in interviews, though, 2 weird things happened to him as a child. Other than that, he had a basically normal childhood growing up. So he was once raped as a child by a man. He did not tell his parents about this, and that was the first thing weird that happened to him. And in 1979, he was dragged by men in black to a 11-year-old girl's casket on her funeral day. Now, the mom of this dead 11-year-old girl forced him to kiss her forehead 3 times. They exchanged rings. He put the ring on the dead girl's finger, and he wore the other wedding ring. And he claimed that, like, the girl named Natasha Petrova, which was the girl's name who died, they were married then, and that was their thing. Like, they had connection from that point. He also had a dream about her every single night, and she would visit him in his dreams, and the only times she stopped visiting him in his dreams when she would have her grave visited by him. So in order to stop all these hauntings from his dead girl, wife, corpse thing, I don't know, he did a ritual, like a black magic ritual, with a classmate's tooth. He said that she wanted him to do black magic, and if he did this ritual with a classmate's tooth, she would stop haunting him, and it worked, apparently. Any thoughts on that? Weird?
What kind of messed up time is this?
I don't know if I buy that some men drag you to a corpse and made you kiss it and stuff. What? Does he have the ring? Does he have proof?
I mean, I don't know of any ritual.
With a tooth? I don't know rituals anyways.
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't care about that. There's a lot of weird, freaky deaky type things. But, yeah. I mean, that's just weird and really random.
If it did happen and he kissed her or whatever and he had dreams about her, you know, I don't think she was haunting him, you know?
I'm just talking about the whole thing about being dragged there and being married to a corpse.
Yeah, yeah. especially by the mom of the dead girl. Also, she didn't die in some like tragic man killed her kind of way. She slipped on an electrical cord after coming out of the bathtub and got electrocuted. Now, it's a tragic death. It is horrible and bizarre, but like, why is that going to make you marry a little kid thing? Yeah, I don't know. And then haunt him with black magic. That doesn't make sense to me at all, but that's what he says happened. That was the second thing that happened to him as a child. That was weird.
Well, we all grieve in different ways.
Grieve for what? He didn't know her.
No, I'm talking about her dead daughter.
Oh, that's weird. Why would you want your dead daughter to marry someone? She's a child.
Hey, you're always up about getting married and whatnot.
Yes, I am.
Exactly.
Let that be known. I mean, maybe she needed a sense of security in the afterlife. And that point, I kind of get it. Now you made a point. Now it makes sense. Maybe it did happen. But those are the only two things that happened to him.
Russia has some weird things going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, this dude in general is just bizarre, you know? But those are the two things that happened to him as a child that were weird. Now let's go ahead and get to like the modern age, like as an adult and stuff. So between 2005 and 2007, he, along with a historian companion was around once in a while, didn't stick around all the time, obviously, because he would know about certain things. But between 2005 and 2007, he would visit hundreds of cemeteries across the region and document them for a book. Now, at first, the first couple of places I researched this case, I was like, what kind of book is about cemeteries? Do you know why he was researching 752 cemeteries for a book? Because I did not put it together until it was, like, blatantly explained why this is the thing. Like, every person's name that was buried there, blah, 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 blah. I didn't put it together, right? I thought it was just like, oh, he's weird, he wants to hang out in cemeteries and get an excuse. He was actually documenting them because the Soviet Union had destroyed a lot of old records and they did not know who was where these bodies lost and all that. So honestly, it sounds like a really good thing. But for the longest time researching this case, I could not understand why he was doing a book on cemeteries.
So he was just documenting basically unmarked graves?
No, they were marked. Like he would go to like cemeteries in the middle of nowhere with like gravel roads and like find them and document who was there when they died, all that stuff.
No.
Yeah, but like most of the resources for this case just say that he was going to do research. And I didn't know what that was for. But anyways.
Now we know.
Now we know.
We're going to know. You're going to learn today.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, whenever you're listening. But so he would do some weird stuff while visiting these cemeteries. So he would drink from the puddles on the cemetery grounds. He said it was really hot and he needed something to drink, but you're drinking puddles on the ground rather than bringing water with you. And since a lot of these places were out in the middle of nowhere and stuff, rather than leaving at night when he got there, because he tended to go to these cemeteries at night when no one would be bothering him, he would sleep in abandoned houses. He slept in an empty casket one time that was waiting for a Muslim burial the next morning. And actually they woke up, the grave diggers woke up to him in the thing, but they were drunk, so he got away with it, sleeping in the coffin that night. But he would sleep in abandoned buildings, haystacks, or just in the cemetery gate, like open area, which is odd, just leave, you know? He would also have runs with police once in a while, but never anything serious, because while he was defiling graves there, when his partner wasn't there, he would just claim it was for his research purposes, and like he would be seen doing the defiling of the graves, so he got away with it for a really long time. Anyways, in 2009, so he did his research between 2005 and 2007, but in 2009 an investigation began to figure out why graves were opened, and some bodies were discovered to be missing altogether. So there was like graves had writing on them and they were like torn up, some were opened up, some actually had everything taken out of the casket. In 2011, after a terrorist attack, there was a tip of Muslim graves being disturbed, and Anatoly would be caught on the scene vandalizing the headstones. He had nothing to do with the terrorist attack. However, this terrorist attack was like against Muslims, and then therefore Muslim graves were being defiled, so they decided to investigate. And then he was caught on scene. He claimed that he was just doing research and stuff and he was cleaning up the gravestones. But obviously the police didn't fall for that and he was arrested. Now when he was arrested, they decided to see if he had any like extremist information propaganda in his home. So they checked his apartment that he shared with his parents. Because again, dude never dated or anything. He lived with his parents. Nice. He also couldn't really hold a job. He had like a job working at a college at one point. But that didn't really last too long. So he was basically living off like his research papers and stuff he did. So when they checked his apartment with his parents, they uncovered a map of cemeteries, which seems pretty fitting for him, doll making manuals, grave markers, as well as pictures and videos of open graves, and a list of dolls' birthdays.
What?
doll making materials, grave markers.
No, I got that, but dolls' birthdays.
Dolls' birthdays.
Like Barbie?
Well, he had a bunch of dolls, and every time it was their birthday, he wanted to celebrate it with them.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a thing. This house did contain 26 life-size dolls found inside, and they were displayed and posed around the apartment, mostly in his space, one in his parents' bedroom, and some in the garage. They were dressed up in women's clothing, wearing makeup caked on, and round objects placed inside of the eye sockets to make them look more lively for the dolls. Obviously, I guess y'all are going to guess this is not dolls, but he made them into dolls. Now, the dolls would actually jingle around when you moved them. Honey, do you want to guess why they jingle when you move them?
Bells.
It's weirder. Bells seems too jingly normal.
What do you stuff them with?
He stuffed music boxes inside the rib cage. So they would jingle around, and when he moved them, he was talking to them, he could jingle them, and they talked back to him.
Nice. I was close.
That, and the rib cage is so weird. But they had like little music boxes inside of them. So like, if he talked, they could talk back. Like, oh no, cha-cha-ching. They looked like antique dolls you could find in a store. The dolls were actually human remains of girls from the ages of 3 to 12. There's a couple places where it documented the age up to 25, but most places said the ages were from 3 to 12 years old, which is very specific and a very narrow thing. He really liked small, young girls.
Well, maybe he had an issue with his ex-wife.
He never got married. He never dated anyone. He's a virgin.
What about the chick that he was married to that was dead? That girl.
Oh, the dead. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I see what you're saying here. But he wanted like a child of his own. Like I said, he tried to adopt one, but he couldn't because he was broke.
Yeah.
So he wanted a child of his own, specifically a daughter, and he decided he was going to have him.
Make one.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you can't really. I was about to say you can't make a person. That's so stupid. Never mind.
Victor Frankenstein did.
People do it all the time, honey. So the purpose of adding the eyes was actually, according to him, to allow them to watch cartoons with me, is what he said. So he would poke a hole in the girl's eyeballs and then put the buttons on top of the doll so they could see through the eyeballs. Absolutely. Also, the mom in that movie was so cool. I know she's like creepy and stuff, but it's fine. Now, his parents did live with him, and of course you're going to wonder, what about that rotting smell, right? That's what I was thinking. Rotting smell right away. That's what I think of when I think of 26 corpses in a house. But they thought it was like a sewer issue, which is the same thing John Wayne Gacy that we covered in like episode 4 or something, said it was a sewage issue in his basement. They thought it was a sewage thing from specifically their apartment in the building, because it was an apartment.
I'm sorry, but there's a huge difference between sewage and decomposition.
Yeah. I mean, you know the smell of death, so it's totally different. But
I mean, it's just natively you know the smell of death.
Absolutely. Everyone smells it, and then once you smell it, you can't describe it.
Well,
but it's not great.
Even if you don't smell it, it's just something instinctual that...
People have smelled at least roadkill, you know? I mean, it still smells like death, but... Now, the parents were quoted as saying, "We saw these dolls, but did not suspect that they were dead bodies inside of them. We thought this was his hobby to make such big dolls, and we didn't see anything wrong with it." After the parents found out there were dead bodies inside of the dolls, now if you're watching this on the YouTube version, I'm going to include pictures, so that's a thing I should have warned you about beforehand. But like, you need to see it. And also there's a layer, I'll go over what he did to make these, but there's a layer of stuff on top of the body. It's not just decomposing flesh on the top layer.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've seen some of the pictures beforehand, and they really don't even look like
They don't
bodies.
look like people. That's why people thought they were dolls.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, but they're super creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Super creepy. Especially his favorite one, that was super creepy.
Chucky 2.0. Slappy 2.0.
No, because these are children's corpses that had terrible deaths. He liked the traumatized corpse. He liked people who had like had been murdered or had like a really tragic incident to him. Kind of like, I guess, his little corpse bride, and not in a Tim Burton way, but he wanted tragic deaths. He wanted to rescue them from that tragedy. Both the parents actually did not know about this, obviously, like they said, and they were both hospitalized upon the news. The father had a heart attack, and the mother was just under a lot of duress for a while. But they both recovered from this, but they both were really in shock from hearing what their child had done, which I get. And they were also away a lot of the year. He said they were away from like April to October most of the year, so he had the apartment to himself, which that's a long summer vacation. It's like most of the year. I want to know what these parents do for work. Like, you're just leaving half the year? But they were away a lot. And also, one of the dolls in the parents' room was a gift from Anatoly, and it was one of his favorite dolls named Marcia. Okay, so a little bit about the dolls, since I just kind of went over they look creepy. A little bit about them in case you're wondering how this process worked like I was, because I got problems, y'all. But they were buried in their own clothes. So the clothes that were on top of the bodies after he did things to them and layered them up with product and stuff, he put their own clothes back on them, typically the ones they were buried in, which happened to be a lot of frilly dresses. The bodies were stuffed with rags and then covered in tights so that the pieces would stay together. He didn't want to rip any limbs off or take them apart. So underneath of the flesh was stuffed with rags, and on top of it, he would put like pantyhose or tights around it to keep everything inside. He also would dry the corpses out on the cemetery grounds for a period of time. So he'd dig up the grave, dry the corpses with a combination of salt and baking soda, stash them away in a secret part of the cemetery where no one would see them, keep dehydrating them before he carried them back to his apartment. So he tried to dry them out so they wouldn't be so wet and heavy when he picked them up.
Well, if he did it well enough, then actually the decomposition wouldn't smell that bad, because salt's gonna, well, one, it's gonna dry it out, and at that point, once it's dry, decomposition won't really take much of effect, because it also kills any bacteria. Salt's a good...
Yeah, but I also have to question how much are you really going to dry out, you know? Russia's typically cold, and then the body is just fluid, honestly. The body is just fluid. So I'm thinking you can't dry it out with so much. You might dry out the skin on the top layer from decomposing, but yeah.
Well, I mean, back in the day before refrigerators were invented, and of course our early ancestors, our cave hunters, they found out that you could store meat by one of two ways, either smoking it or salting it, which preserved it for months. That way they didn't have to, become travelers. They could actually start to settle.
Yeah, of course.
So,
but
I mean, salt's really good at...
Yeah, I know, but if you think about drying out a whole body, before the time someone notices it...
Yeah, take a lot of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. And baking soda, too. So the bodies weren't taken apart. He didn't want to decapitate them or take any limbs off because he was hoping they would come back to life. Like his Celtic beliefs kind of told him, there was an afterlife. He thought he was rescuing these girls. So he was quoted as saying, "You abandoned your girls. I brought them home and warmed them up," which is very weird. And then he said he was rescuing them. They were crawling out from him for the ground to be saved. And he wanted a daughter of his own, so he took that call and did it himself. Also, any dolls that he did not like would be stuffed into the garage. If he didn't like how they looked or how they turned out, he would just put them in the garage and kind of forget about them, but he still celebrated their birthdays. They had their own language he would talk to the dolls in, because again, he's a linguist. He's all about languages. He had his own language he would talk to them in. He practiced black magic with these corpses to try to, bring their spirit to life and stuff. And he also had favorite songs that he would sing to them, so he hopefully, when he had a child of his own one day, could sing those same songs he did with his stolen children. I don't know how to say that. The oldest doll that he had in his collection was made in 2003, so before he got caught, he had this doll for 9 years, which is a really long time to have a human corpse in your house. Some of the dolls wore wigs because he would cover their bodies, I said, in drying materials as well as pantyhose and stockings, and he would also coat them in tons of different makeups and stuff to give them a new appearance after being stuffed and stuff. So he would wear, a lot of them had wigs. One had a really bright green wig on it. Some of them have really manicured curls. And one of the girls he took that was the most doll-like and the creepiest one, which was the first one I showed you, looked very clay-like in the face, was a girl who was murdered at the age of 10 years old named Olga. And she was stolen from her grave. And the mom was furious. She's like, "I lost my daughter twice. Once she was murdered, and then her body was stolen." That has to be a terrible thing to go through.
That sucked.
Yeah. Lost her twice, technically. And then she was defiled, made into a creepy doll. That's the one you see the most close-ups of, and it's the creepiest, for sure.
Yeah.
There's actually one that kind of looks she's a little tiny Barbie doll wedding dress. He was originally arrested, like I said, in 2011, and in 2013, he went to court and confessed to 44 counts of abusing graves and corpses of girls aged 3 to 12, which is 44 is a lot. Also, I don't know if this is a fact or not, because I couldn't find out if every corpse that became a doll was a solid person, or was it more than one person put together. He said he didn't want to take the limbs apart, he didn't want to take people apart, but he picked ones that were died in tragic ways. So I'm wondering if parts were bad on one that he wanted, he would combine them with another one. But I couldn't figure it out. So that's a thing I thought about. He was suspected of desecrating up to 150 graves. And he also destroyed a lot of gravestones from Muslims. And they tried to charge him with a hate crime for that, but it kind of fell through. The charge of desecration of a corpse and graves in Russia only carries up to a 5-year sentence in prison. However, he was not fit for prison, apparently, due to his mental state, and he went to a psychiatric ward. In 2015, he had plans to marry a 25-year-old woman from his hometown who attended his trial. And he was also ordered to pay $75,000 US to each parent of the girls he made dolls out of. But I have a question for you. Why do women, I mean men do it too, of course, but why do women always go after the men in jail for crazy stuff? You know, like every serial killer has like tons of fan mail and stuff, or like women proposing to him all the time. Why is that a thing, you think?
You tell me.
I've never been in love with a serial killer. I did date a guy who tried his dad tried to kill his entire family and burn the whole house down and burned himself in it. But I don't have a thing for serial killers. I don't find them attractive.
You just haven't met the right one yet.
Honey, I want you. So unless you're a serial killer, I don't want one. So in 2018, after filing a hearing claim of abuse, he said that he was like pumped full of drugs and the guards were beating him and stuff in the psychiatric ward. He was given the ability to, he was given the option or opportunity to just walk free and get psychiatric help at home. Now, there was a big petition against this, from the families, and eventually with another psych evaluation, they decided to just keep him in the psych ward, just a different facility. So he was almost released already once for this, but he's in the psychiatric ward right now for mental evaluation. So honestly, though, what I think is, I don't think he should be released. His parents don't want him to be released. They think he's just going to do it again. I don't think he should be released. And it's kind of controversial. People are like, oh, he didn't actually kill anyone. He just made friends, which is, it's weird. It's weird. But that's what people say. He didn't do anything technically wrong. We should just let him out and get help.
See, I think in this particular case, this would be where being in a, not like a high level, like a high security mental ward, but more so
he's in solitary.
The addict recovery type things, how they they're luxurious and they're great and they get pampered almost.
Yeah.
See, maybe something between what he's at now and in the middle of that. So not quite like he's being pampered.
I mean, he's in solitary for the most part right now, so I don't really think that's very beneficial as far as helping him get out of this kind of rut. But I think once you start doing that kind of thing, like his parents said, it's going to be a habit.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, it's not like it doesn't seem like he's a danger to society for the most part. But at the same time, something like that is just very severe that I don't believe he should be let free. But at the same time, he shouldn't be kept in just horrible confinement conditions.
No one does. I mean, people don't deserve that in the first place. Yeah. It's very bad for mental health in general to be out of people. Yeah. But I also worry that people like this who, let's say Ed Gein, who inspired the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill, all these people. He initially started grave robbing. And then he ended up killing 2 people. Grave robbing can escalate if you don't find these dead bodies with jingle bells in them entertaining anymore. I worry that he would find a little girl on the street and a bad opportunity and just take her.
Probably
not kill her.
That certainly is a possibility.
See,
I would think that something like that would have evolved after 44 grave robbings. At that point, I'm like, you'd get bored of it before at that point.
Yeah,
so. I don't know. I mean, we can't. Who's to say? He could have resorted to eventually becoming actually
He's still
abducting.
alive. He still can.
What I'm saying is, we may never know.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, I don't believe that he should be set free without actually being properly, quote unquote, psych evaled and then rehabilitated to where he's not.
Yeah, but if his parents, who can literally have visitation every single day if they want to, because it's that kind of institution, don't think he should be released and he's going to repeat his actions, don't you think you should kind of take their word on it? Plus, he traumatized these families.
Not 100%.
26 people.
Not quite 100%, because, honestly, the parents, until all this came to light, they had no clue. This was going on in their basement, and they had no clue. So, how well do they, 100% really know their son?
Yeah, that's true. Also, a weird fun fact that I found out. I told you that he owes each family of every doll.
Where's he getting that?
$75,000 US. Actually, it's only 25 bodies that have to pay that because one of the dads, said that they didn't want the money. He was grateful for what this dude did to his daughter because he took her and took care of her and clothed her and stuff. And that is some bizarro shit. He took your daughter out of your grave and like did whatever he wants to her corpse and stuffed her body full of stuff.
No, that's really messed up. That is. I'm not really even sure what to make of that.
He was like, he's a better father than I was.
Are we sure we shouldn't be looking into him?
Honestly, right? If he thinks this is good, like having her flesh stuffed with rags, and kept in someone's house dried out is a good thing for her. Sir, I have questions, and I kind of don't want to meet you to answer them. So, anyways, do you have anything else for today's case?
Not really. I just really want to watch House of Wax and maybe some Slappy.
Classic.
Oh,
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for today's case. We'll talk about a crime that's not desecration of corpse next time.
Oh.
Do you want another desecration of corpse?
I don't care.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
All right.
Bye.